I'm Mahdi Shaheeb Sher. My website is www.mahdishaheebsher.com. I think one of my interests in the world as Mahdi Shaheeb Sher is NATO at the moment. I think that NATO is quite important in the world at the moment. I think it's quite a large NATO that we have compared to the rest of its history. I think that the NATO that we have in Europe at the moment is probably the biggest NATO that's been present in Europe since it was first started after the Second World War, with the Cold War with the Soviet Union. I think that with the NATO, it's enlarged all over Europe to cover most of Europe, and it's deployed an extra 45,000 soldiers into the Eastern European area. So NATO does seem to be very involved and engaged with the world in Europe at the moment. It seems to be a very crucial factor in the world and how the world is working at the moment, especially with its kind of balance of powers and things. But I think that the problem with NATO is that it may be redundant now, it may be outdated and no longer necessary. I think that's the view with a lot of countries, that maybe NATO is kind of overstepping its responsibilities to maybe a new threatening level, especially in confrontation with some of the other countries around the world. And I think that NATO as a defensive pact should take more of a secondary line when it comes to military conflict, when it comes to conflict within Europe. I think at the moment NATO is being very aggressive in Europe, with its very vocal kind of views about its position on confronting some of the challenges in Europe. But I think ultimately NATO is a kind of a defensive alliance and should take more of a seated position within Europe. I think one of the key important aspects of this is that the defence budgets of most European countries are at around 2.5%, and that means that they're quite low with some of the challenges that are present in a lot of different countries. So I think that the military budgets are quite low at the moment, and NATO is quite big. I think that NATO has also ruptured its relationship with America, and I think America could be looking at disbanding NATO. So I think that's an important view as well. But I think I have disfavourable opinions about NATO, and I think that it is pretty much obsolete with the new roles that countries have in the world. I think we don't have so much of a Cold War that we did before. So I think that NATO is quite redundant in that respect. And I think that what we have are kind of challenges as independent countries, and maybe unions and union of countries to confront conflicts of the future that are maybe regional and more isolated. So I think that's kind of the division and direction of conflict in the future. I don't think it's about these big alliances anymore, but maybe one or two countries working in concert together, and maybe groups of countries working together to deal with some of the challenges of regional conflict. So that's my view about NATO. I think that it should be disbanded, and I think it should be replaced with more modern kind of military cooperation that involves a number of countries and maybe other organisations. Thank you.